Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. If you've been a long time watcher of my channel, then you know I absolutely love video games, specifically retro gaming. And I actually have a playlist with hundreds of video games, and at the same time I also have a separate channel called Go Gaming. Now I grew up in the era of video games since the very beginning, from original Atari cartridges to more modern gaming systems like Sega Master System, Nintendo, all the way up to the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and then also some of my favorite consoles. The Dreamcast is definitely my favorite. I got the GameCube right there, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and then here are some classics right here. Soul Calibur 2, got King of Fighters 98. Obviously, I love fighting games. Gran Turismo 3. This is Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec. And then a classic, Psychonauts. And also one of the OG games, Grand Theft Auto. And also mobile gaming as well, like the Game Boy Advance, Gunstar Heroes, first played through the Sega Saturn, awesome 4-player action from Treasure. And then another Treasure classic, Guardian Heroes as well. And then we also have things like the Nintendo DS. This is Dragon Quest right here. And so as you can see, I love games, and one of the most important ways that a lot of us who grew up with these games, or maybe who are interested in these retro classics, is through emulation. And emulation, if you didn't know, it allows a computer like this to emulate a game system or arcade hardware or any other type of older hardware. And that's the primary way that I game. I'm really not a modern gamer, and so this is pretty much the only way that I game, and at the same time it brings back a lot of nostalgic memories. Now, some companies are definitely against this, mainly Nintendo, and they've been at a fight with emulation for many years now. And even if you think making backups of your game is actually going to protect you, if you actually read these manuals, this is from 2009, 2010 for Dragon Quest, it says backup or archival copies are not authorized and are not necessary to protect your software. So even then, Nintendo can still protect their IPs, and which I completely agree for legal reasons. All of these companies, they own these properties, so it makes sense legally to protect it. But for years now, ever since our modern age, does it really hurt them? Because most of these games, they're really not generating revenue anymore. Okay, so, and if anything, they actually make these companies more money. And let me quickly explain that. These are games that a lot of people grew up with, and so just like me, they're very nostalgic about it. And also at the same time, the majority of these games, they're really hard to find or completely unavailable, and even if you do have some of these games, these are physical, so eventually they're gonna stop working, okay, or your game systems might die. And through the whole emulation community, not only are we able to play these classics from years and years ago and continue to play them, we also get to try them out in different forms, whether it's being translated from another language like Japanese, or you get a homebrewed hacked version which adds additional features. And the whole argument that this actually hurts their revenue, I really don't agree with that, because it doesn't stop people from buying games. As a matter of fact, because of the nostalgia, because of the love of the game series, it makes people buy more games. Okay, so it's not just the historical aspect, but also the monetary side. People are still buying games, and I do understand that these companies do offer these games through their own software service, like the virtual console. But if you ever played any of these, they're normally not the best experiences, or they might add other things like DLCs or microtransactions, and once again, not every game is available on those mediums. And so that's kind of why I see that this is kind of heading not in the right direction, and the biggest blow that's happened recently is that Nintendo went after one of these emulation sites, like sued them for like $10 million, and because of that, probably the biggest emulation site available, EmuParadise, they're no longer going to be offering ROMs or emulation software. This site has been around for 18 years, and many other sites have been affected by this, and this really sets a different precedence going forward. I mean, I think all of us kind of knew that at some point this might end up like this, but it's a really sad thing, because in the future you'll probably definitely not be able to get these ROMs or even emulation software anymore. And also, even if you are able to download them, maybe in the future, and I think I've talked about this before, they'll probably be able to restrict you playing them, you know, whether through built-in DRMs or some type of advanced checks. And so my thought on that is that if you are somebody who loves retro gaming, whether you do physical, whether you do something like this, pure emulation, or it's a combination of both, I really do recommend that you make backups of everything, you know, and also continue to support these games, these creators, and the whole community that surrounds it, and buy the new games that come out for it. But at some point, emulation is really going to end in the way that we know it, and how it specifically affects people like myself who actually play emulated games on my Linux desktop. I think that's going to last a little bit longer because, you know, on something like a Windows or Apple Mac, they probably have more control over that, you know. So even if you were able to download the ROMs or already have the ROMs available, they'll probably be able to put checks that they'll block you from playing it. So hopefully this doesn't happen anytime soon on my Linux desktop. And so those are my thoughts on the whole emulation scene. The whole basically demise of EmuParadise as we know it, and also what you can do, you know, at least in the short term, you know, just make backups of all your games, and also your hardware, you know, keep them up to date. And so if you had any thoughts on this, whether you are a classic retro gamer, whether it's physical games or through emulation means, I'd like to know what your thoughts are. And so if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hey geeks, if you are a creative geek like me and you wanted to learn how to create content on YouTube and other places on the internet, then check out my Go Content Creators group, where you'll get access to 30 videos plus additional content for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part of it is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Go Content Creators group. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.